deal, too. Chill. You guys are acting like only
There are moments in Hollywood when the polite facade cracks and the brutal truth spills out for the world to see. January 7th, 2024 was one of those nights. When Jo Koy stepped onto the Golden Globe stage, he didn't just deliver a monologue, he detonated a cultural bomb that had been ticking for years. The explosion started innocently enough. Koy was discussing popular television series, praising shows about rich, white, dysfunctional families scheming. Then came the verbal dagger.
Series about a rich, white, dysfunctional family, all scheming. Oh no, that's The Crown. That's The Crown. I'm sorry.
The audience gasped. The comparison was savage, equating the royal family with fictional TV drama designed for entertainment. But Koy wasn't finished twisting the knife. He pivoted to Prince Harry with surgical precision. Imelda Staunton's portrayal of the Queen was so convincing, Prince Harry actually called her asking for money. The implication was devastating, painting Harry as financially desperate and pathetically confused about reality versus fiction.
Her portrayal of the Queen was so good, Prince Harry called her for it and asked her for money.
The final blow targeted their controversial Netflix deal with laser-focused accuracy.
I didn't write all these. That one's not mine. Turns out Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will still get paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing.
This wasn't just a joke. It was a public indictment of what Hollywood privately thought about their lucrative contracts. The immediate impact was electric. The camera caught awkward smiles, uncomfortable shifts, and knowing glances throughout the star-studded audience. What Koy had done wasn't accidental. He'd crystallized years of industry frustration into 3 perfectly crafted punchlines that everyone could understand. This wasn't comedy. It was a public execution disguised as entertainment. The moment those words left his mouth, Meghan and Harry went from protected celebrities to fair game for every comedian, talk show host, and satirist in the entertainment industry. The gates had been opened, and there was no going back. What happened next was unprecedented in modern celebrity culture, a coordinated avalanche of A-list mockery that felt less like coincidence and more like organized revenge. Jo Koy's Golden Globes permission slip had unleashed something Hollywood had been suppressing for years: genuine frustration with the Sussex brand. Alexandra Daddario became the first civilian casualty when asked about Meghan's impact on her daily life. Her response wasn't diplomatic, it was genuinely annoyed.
Is this true? Meghan Markle has ruined your workout regime. Is this true? If so, how?
Yes, she has.
How?
Well, she came into New York last weekend,
Yeah.
and she went to a yoga place called Moto Yoga, which is my yoga place. It's
Right.
where I always...
This wasn't theoretical criticism. This was real-world inconvenience caused by Meghan's presence. The late-night circuit smelled blood in the water. Jimmy Fallon zeroed in on what seemed like manufactured authenticity, questioning why Meghan would make her own pretzel bags by simply taking snacks from one container and putting them in another. The absurdity of repackaging store-bought snacks for Netflix cameras became a metaphor for their entire public persona. Stephen Colbert took aim at their cringe-worthy intimacy, mocking their recently revealed pet names for each other. He sarcastically wondered what the deep meaning could possibly be behind calling each other M and H. The sarcasm was palpable. Even their private moments felt calculated and inauthentic. But Colin Jost delivered perhaps the most savage commentary on SNL, joking about a fictional trade deal with Britain, where the only thing the UK wanted in return was for America to keep Harry and Meghan. The joke suggested that America was getting the worse end of the bargain, that Harry and Meghan were essentially unwanted exports.
NBC has announced plans for a spin-off to the hit series Suits, which will be set in Los Angeles. It will focus on Meghan Markle's character's struggle to balance her legal career while also caring for an unemployed immigrant.
But Jost wasn't finished. He crystallized the public's confusion with a brutal comparison, likening Harry's decision to Elon Musk inexplicably getting involved with Twitter despite his other achievements. Except Harry had given up royalty to marry an actor from a cable show. The implication was clear. Trading a crown for cable television was an incomprehensibly stupid career move. But perhaps the most telling example of Hollywood's collective cold shoulder came from an unexpected source: Meghan's own former television family. The 2024 Golden Globes served as the perfect stage for what would become the most brutal professional rejection of the year. And it didn't come from A-list celebrities or industry executives. It came from the co-stars who had worked alongside Meghan for 7 years. When Gabriel Macht, Patrick J. Adams, Sarah Rafferty, and Gina Torres reunited to present at the 81st Golden Globes, the absence was deafening. Suits had become Netflix's most watched series, breaking streaming records and experiencing a cultural renaissance. This should have been Meghan's victory lap, a chance to celebrate the show that had launched her career and provided the platform that eventually led her to Prince Harry. Instead, she was conspicuously missing from what became an organic reunion of her former television family. When Gina Torres was asked about the coordination behind their Golden Globes appearance, her response was revealing. Their text thread is insane right now, with constant communication between the cast members. But when pressed about Meghan's involvement, Torres delivered the verbal equivalent of a professional death sentence.
You're all texting each other?
Well, when it all came through, we were all texting each other. Yes, our text thread is insane right now, so it's very exciting.
Who texted Meghan and said, you gotta come to the Golden Globes, Meghan Markle?
We don't have her number.
The public reaction was swift and brutal. This wasn't about security protocols or royal restrictions. This was about basic human relationships. Social media erupted with theories about what had really happened between Meghan and her former colleagues. The prevailing narrative wasn't that the cast had abandoned Meghan, but rather that she had abandoned them the moment she secured her royal upgrade. Industry insiders began connecting dots that painted a damaging picture. Meghan had allegedly distanced herself from her Suits family immediately after leaving the show in 2017, cutting ties with people who had supported her career for nearly a decade. The cast's revelation that they literally didn't have her contact information suggested a deliberate severing of relationships on Meghan's part. Patrick J. Adams later contradicted the no-contact narrative by revealing that Meghan had recently texted him about his Suits podcast, proving she could reach out when it benefited her. This selective communication only reinforced the public perception that Meghan had strategically discarded relationships that no longer served her elevated status. The ultimate irony wasn't lost on observers. The show that had made Meghan famous was experiencing unprecedented success, and her former co-stars were celebrating together without her. It was Hollywood's version of being uninvited to your own success story. When mainstream comedy finishes with you, that's when you know you've crossed from celebrity to cultural footnote. But when satirical institutions start dedicating entire episodes to dismantling your public persona, you've entered uncharted territory of public humiliation. Meghan and Harry were about to discover what it feels like when comedy becomes character elimination. Spitting Image, the legendary British puppet show that had terrorized politicians for decades, turned its merciless attention to the Sussex couple with surgical precision. Their puppet Harry introduced himself with the kind of oblivious self-awareness that made viewers cringe. The marionette version claimed to be just a regular guy, while simultaneously boasting about being fifth in line to the throne. The puppet show's most devastating attack came through Harry's business model. Their animated version cheerfully admitted to making a ton of money from podcasting despite having no discernible talent. But the cruelty didn't stop there. Spitting Image portrayed him as pathologically lazy, bragging about how his butler would wake up early and run 10K for him, then wake Harry up to Google whether he was still fifth in line to the throne.
Look, I love you and I'm willing to do whatever I need to do in order to be with you, Meghan.
Well, I think it's important we do this ourselves, Harry, and not live off your family.
I agree. We'll just have to find a way to make £50 billion on our own.
The show's portrayal of their Netflix deal was particularly brutal, reducing their multi-million-dollar contract to a simple cash grab. When asked about television, their puppet Harry casually mentioned that his Netflix account had about $9 million in it. The implication was clear. This wasn't content creation, it was financial extraction. But Spitting Image's British sensibilities were nothing compared to the American satirical powerhouse that was about to obliterate them. South Park dedicated an entire episode called The Worldwide Privacy Tour to exposing what they saw as the couple's fundamental hypocrisy. The animated series introduced them as the only two people in Canada not mourning the Queen's death, immediately positioning them as tone-deaf and self-absorbed. The episode mercilessly mocked Harry's memoir, with the cartoon interviewer confronting him about claiming hardship despite having everything handed to you.
With the royal family, you've had everything handed to you, but you say your life has been hard, and now you've written all about it in your new book, Where? Yes, that's right, friend. You see, my wife and I are
totally like, you should write a book because your family's like stupid, and then so are like journalists.
South Park's masterstroke was exposing their central contradiction. The animated couple constantly chanted about wanting privacy while simultaneously seeking attention through TV shows, celebrity hangouts, and fashion magazines. The episode culminated in the couple finding a truly quiet place, only to be confused by the actual privacy, reinforcing the idea that they never really wanted solitude, they wanted controlled publicity. When puppet shows and cartoons dedicate episodes to destroying your narrative, you've officially become a punchline rather than a person. The most telling indicator of Hollywood's shifting sentiment wasn't the public mockery, it was the strategic silence from people who had once been genuine allies. When A-list celebrities start ghosting you instead of roasting you, that's when you know the damage is truly irreversible. And for Meghan and Harry, the defection of their Hollywood support system was happening in real time. Tyler Perry had been their literal savior during their darkest moments, offering his $18 million mansion as sanctuary when they fled the royal family. He'd publicly defended their decision, provided security, and stood as their most prominent Black Hollywood advocate. But by 2024, Perry's tone had noticeably cooled. Industry insiders reported that he'd become frustrated with what he perceived as their high-maintenance, low-reward approach to relationships. The shift wasn't dramatic, it was subtle, which made it more devastating. Perry began making cryptic comments about people who don't have specific plans while expecting others to support their dreams. Hollywood veterans recognize this as diplomatic shade, the kind of professional distancing that signals someone has become toxic to associate with.
Meghan Markle to join the 11th season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Ugh, so thirsty for any kind of attention. I would die.
Oprah Winfrey, the woman who had launched their post-royal career with that explosive interview, had gone conspicuously quiet. The media mogul who had given them the platform to tell their story was nowhere to be found when they needed support for their subsequent ventures. Industry observers noted that Oprah's silence was particularly damning because she rarely abandons people she's publicly championed. John Mulaney delivered what many considered the most brutal industry assessment at a Netflix event, joking that not since Harry and Meghan had the streaming giant given more money to someone without a specific plan. Coming from a Netflix comedian at a Netflix function, this wasn't just comedy. It was insider intelligence about how the company viewed their partnership.
I'm not mad. I'm just curious. Why did you write it this way? Making it seem like it's a recurring segment. Is it to justify you wanting to talk about the royals, or an ego thing of you wanting to feel like the guest who was chosen to be on this fake segment?
I think probably.
James Corden, who had been Harry's texting buddy and wedding guest, had quietly faded from their narrative. The comedian who had once defended their California move was now deflecting questions about royal family tensions, claiming it wasn't fair for him to weigh in. Ryan Reynolds had openly mocked Meghan's jam business on Conan O'Brien's show, making jokes about her tiny jams and harvestable jams made from the oils of Montecito. But even Reynolds' mockery was preferable to the strategic silence from former supporters. Entertainment industry experts pointed to this as the most damaging kind of Hollywood rejection, when genuine friends quietly fade away rather than burn bridges publicly. It suggested that even their most loyal supporters had quietly concluded that the Sussex brand was too toxic to touch. In Hollywood, being ignored is worse than being ridiculed. It means you're no longer relevant enough to waste jokes on. But while Hollywood insiders were quietly distancing themselves, the stand-up comedy world had no interest in diplomatic silence. Stand-up comedians are the truth tellers of the entertainment industry. They say what everyone else is thinking, but too polite to vocalize. And when they turned their attention to Meghan and Harry, the gloves came completely off. Chris Rock took direct aim at what he saw as Meghan's willful ignorance during her Oprah interview. The comedy legend was particularly incredulous about her claims of not knowing about the royal family's complicated history. Rock sarcastically expressed disbelief that she hadn't researched the family she was marrying into.
They're so some of that he went through was not it was just some in-law.
Across the Atlantic, British comedian Simon Brodkin delivered his own merciless takedown, but his anger came from a different source, the couple's Netflix documentary. Brodkin admitted that he hadn't been a fan initially, but watching their self-produced series had transformed his mild dislike into genuine hatred. For Brodkin, it was the small, self-important details that felt completely inauthentic. He was particularly annoyed by their pet names for each other, calling their H&M nicknames insufferably pretentious. He was also baffled by the cringe-worthy language Harry used to describe their relationship, quoting his description of a date as pulling the pin on, a fun grenade. Language so ridiculous that Brodkin joked he started rooting for Prince Andrew.
I watched the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. Now, I'll be honest with you, before I watched it, I was not a fan of theirs. Now I've actually heard their side of the story, I hate them. If you haven't...
Brodkin was also incredulous about how they presented normal royal protocols, like curtsying, as if they were uniquely traumatic experiences. He sarcastically suggested that maybe Harry could have simply explained that his grandmother was the queen. But Brodkin's final straw was hearing millionaires complain about paying for their own security. This complaint destroyed any lingering sympathy he might have had, with Brodkin admitting that after 6 episodes, he wanted to attack them. Nikki Glaser delivered perhaps the most savage reality check of all, stripping away all romantic notions about Meghan's fairy tale. Glaser brutally observed that without marrying Harry, Meghan would probably be competing on reality dating shows, fighting for minor television personalities. She reduced Meghan's entire story to pure luck, suggesting she would be nobody special working as a barista in Sherman Oaks if not for royal marriage. Glaser's point was devastatingly simple. Without the title, Meghan genuinely lacked any standout talent or accomplishment that would make her culturally relevant. It was the ultimate professional elimination, reducing someone's entire identity to matrimonial fortune. What Jo Koy had unknowingly accomplished at the Golden Globes was far more significant than just landing a few jokes. He had issued a cultural permission slip that would reshape how Hollywood treated the Sussex couple. For years, there had been an unspoken understanding that Meghan and Harry were off limits for serious mockery. They were protected by a combination of royal mystique, racial sensitivity, and Hollywood's general reluctance to attack someone who had seemingly been apparently victimized. But Jo Koy's Golden Globes monologue shattered that protective barrier in real time. By successfully roasting them on television's biggest stage without immediate backlash, he had proven that the couple was fair game. The audience had laughed. The media had covered it as entertainment rather than controversy. Most importantly, there were no consequences. Hollywood is an industry that operates on precedent and risk assessment. Jo Koy had effectively demonstrated that mocking Meghan and Harry was safe, profitable, and socially acceptable. Within days, every comedian, talk show host, and satirist in the entertainment industry realized they could take shots at the couple without fear of being labeled racist, cruel, or professionally inappropriate. The floodgates had been opened, and there was no closing them. But Jo Koy's cultural permission slip had an unintended consequence. It revealed just how masterfully the British royal family had been playing the long game. While Hollywood was finally free to mock the Sussexes without fear of repercussions, the royals had been quietly executing the most devastating public relations strategy imaginable: absolute silence. In a world where everyone feels compelled to respond to criticism, they had weaponized their traditional motto of never complain, never explain into a masterclass in dignified superiority.
I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
King Charles had effectively ended all communication with his younger son, with Harry publicly admitting that his father wouldn't speak to him because of security stuff. But this wasn't just personal estrangement, it was strategic positioning. By refusing to engage with Harry's demands or respond to his public criticisms, Charles was demonstrating the kind of regal composure that made the Sussexes' constant complaining look increasingly petulant by comparison. Prince William had taken an even harder line, with reports suggesting he no longer discusses Harry and considers him a complete betrayer of the family. William's stonewall strategy was particularly effective because it contrasted so sharply with Harry's desperate attempts to maintain relevance through family drama. While Harry was giving interviews about feeling abandoned, William was simply getting on with royal duties and raising his family. The royal family's collective silence created a powerful visual narrative. While Harry and Meghan were chasing headlines and seeking sympathy, the working royals continued serving the British people with quiet dignity. Every Sussex interview or documentary was immediately contrasted with images of William and Catherine carrying out royal engagements, Charles fulfilling his constitutional duties, or the late Queen Elizabeth's decades of selfless service. Royal biographers pointed out that this silence was more devastating than any public rebuttal could have been. By refusing to engage with Harry's various accusations, the royal family had effectively communicated that his complaints weren't worth dignifying with responses. They had reduced the Sussexes from serious critics of the monarchy to irrelevant complainers seeking attention. The ultimate royal power play became clear as Jo Koy's comedy avalanche continued. While Harry and Meghan burned through goodwill with constant media appearances, the royal family maintained their institutional authority through consistent behavior and strategic non-engagement. Every Sussex interview made them look more desperate, while every royal silence made the monarchy look more stable. In the court of public opinion, dignity had triumphed over publicity seeking, and the royals had won without saying a single word.